Hello, Mr. Meloni. How are you?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
I am good. So we have a bunch to talk about. We have to talk about Maxx, obviously. What an insane laugh out loud show.
Good,
I knew nothing
good.
about it. I went in blindly. My husband and I are watching it, and we were just like, we're both sober, but I was like, I feel like I'm on coke. And we said, one of the things we said was like, could we binge watch it? Because it is so frenetic and crazy.
Yeah,
How did you get involved with this nutso show?
man. Good, clean living. What can I tell you? Uh, it was a very simple process of here's an offer. I'm like, okay, and O-T Fagbenle, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting because I'd just done Handmaid's Tale, but our
Right.
paths never intersected. And I start reading it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is really insane. And I really am attracted to insane. So, luckily, not in my relationships, but in my material, yes. And I mean, and that was it. And he had written all six, so they were in really great shape. So I had a real good, sometimes the pilot will be really good, and then you're like, everyone is gassed by the last episode, and they're just putting anything down on paper. This was really well thought out and well structured. So I was, that was it. I was in
Did
there.
they tell you why they thought of you for Don Juan?
No, and I got to tell you, he was written as a 74-year-old man originally. I was like, you have some splaining to do, man. I mean, I know I'm getting a little long in the tooth, but come on. But no, they said, yeah, my name had just come up, and I guess they just went, that's a really good idea. So I'm glad they went with their gut.
So tell our viewers, tell us who Don Wild is and where he is in this story.
Don Wild is a rock and roll manager extraordinaire slash record producer slash hit maker slash king maker of all that is music, and all of these things at least are in his mind. He's very successful. He's a man who his numerical age is not to be thought of. He is a 24-year-old living in a 60-year-old body, or vice versa. I mean, he just refuses to grow up. He is a wild man.
How fully fleshed out was the character, or do you sit down with them and like, okay, I see him in a kilt.
Right.
I don't know what he was doing with the guy on the table in the party out of his mouth. Was those shots? What was?
Yeah, there's liquor. There was liquor in the guy's mouth, and he suck it out with a straw. He was really well written. The costumer was extraordinary, and she had a very clear vision, and there was really not too much for me to do costume wise. She had it locked and loaded and ready to go, and God bless her. I mean, the kilt was, she goes, here, put on kilt. And I put on the kilt. I was like, oh my goodness. I've always wanted to wear one of these with the camera rolling. So that was fantastic. There was a lot of, I always I always think I come with a lot of ideas, big ideas. And they were all very amenable to making it work. Some were a little off the rails, and we all recognized it immediately, like a blonde wig, and maybe those big veneer teeth. Because my idea was, he was a cross between, one of those kind of Vegas acts, that has not aged in 40 years. Right.
He's still in the lobby of the hotel performing.
Yeah, and he's still got really black hair. A 22-year-old black head of hair. So everything is dyed. Yeah. So I just came with the baubles and the bangles and the necklaces because I thought, he's a rock and roller and he's a guy just who has just not grown up. But the costumer really helped out with that.
And then it didn't take long before there was the threesome scene.
Mm.
Which just, I mean, first of all, you just said you didn't want to go off the rails. So I could just imagine what was going on before you came.
Thank God we had rehearsals, because that's where you let her rip and then everyone goes, okay, we're going to calm down now and focus on telling the story. Yeah. Those, I don't care what the sex, well, let me say this. Any sex scene is a little bit nerve wracking, but a comedic one really takes the edge off, especially when it's.
How do you not laugh? I mean, they brought out the most gigantic, I'm just going to call it a sex toy for now.
Yeah.
How do you just not lose it? Yeah,
that's one of the only gifts that I am blessed with is I really don't break. I rarely break. O-T on the other hand, which I love. I like it when people break because I feel as though they have such command that they're open to the glee and the absurdity of it all. I'm too busy focused on whatever we're doing. But yeah, he had a couple good crack ups.
What does the show say about fame?
O-T said it really well. The character of Maxx, who was the leader of a boy band 20 years prior, but because of bad behavior, hubris, drugs and alcohol, poor choices, his career's in the toilet. So he's trying to make a comeback. And it's the idea of this insane search. You would literally kill someone for something that is so superficial, and in the end, so unnourishing to anything that is of any import. Unless you need constant recognition, and that that's an illness. That's a narcissism. So his thing was the difference between respect and fame. And I thought that was a nice touch, the idea of the search for respect.
What was one of the first times that you realized that you were famous?
Well, I think I started feeling it when I was in New York City. It was approximately 1997, 98. And I was riding my bicycle to the set of Oz. And someone yells to me on Greenwich, hey, Chris. I thought it was, one of my boys, and I stopped the bike and go, hey, who are you? He goes, oh, you don't know me, but hey, man, I love your work. I went, wow. He didn't call me Meloni. It was Chris. And I'm like, oh, I'm now on a first name basis with fans. That I really had to process that. And it was kind of impactful of, oh, they're kind of in your life. You're having a relationship now with people through the screen without you knowing it.
Did it ever freak you out?
There have been a few, kind of uncomfortable moments of, boundaries, a misunderstanding of boundaries and, that sort of thing. But, it's not a freak out. You acclimate very quickly. It's just a thing to manage. It's a thing to enjoy, but it's a thing to manage. Yeah.
You were in Oz. You were out there. So I feel like people really probably thought they just knew you.
In almost an intimate way.
Right.
And I mean that, a little facetiously, haha, because, but also, I got this a lot. It was, I think there were a lot of people who were pleased, shocked, relieved, maybe all in one, to be seeing a character being portrayed like that, you know,
Mm.
a gay man, or, you know, if you want, I never saw him as, I just saw him as omnisexual, you know, just
Right.
this, he used sex as a weapon. But that the idea of sexuality was kind of an irrelevant aspect of how he carried himself through life. And I think that, so anyway, I think people were rooting for him, or they're like, oh my God, finally. And there was a sense of, I'm connected to this guy because he's, you know, I don't know, feeling what I'm feeling, or I don't know, finally a voice, I guess, a voice of, you know, how they felt about certain things.
And in many ways, Oz was a show before its time. I mean, you think about, it's kind of shocking when you think that show went on when it did. Because I remember watching it at night, just being, your mind is blown. You're like, this is on television?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you remember that people would say, like, there's no way this is going to work? There's no way.
No, I don't remember that, but I remember, because I joined second season, and I remember seeing it and really being overwhelmed by it, and seeing its brilliance, obviously understanding or you know, enjoying or being shocked by its brutality, but also, you know, its beauty. You know, I've said this before, that it was I saw it as a Greek play. I felt it was based on Greek literature, Greek plays, you know, with Harold Perrineau as the Greek chorus.
Yeah.
Right now they're going to have to take a break, and they're going to tell you what is about to transpire, or what has you know, get the audience up to date, or engaged from a different angle. So I really enjoyed its poetry and all that stuff, aside from its, you know, obvious, you know, brutality and sexuality and its lessons and all that.
So of course now we have to talk about Stabler. Did you ever think you'd be playing Stabler again?
No.
How did it come about?
A simple phone call, which really, because my reps thought it was a call to have me come back on SVU to kind of wrap up his story, you know. That's all. 4 episodes, something like that. But they just came out of the blue with a new show. And then I really must say it came at the right time for me. And just,
Why is that?
Stuff I'll save for my memoirs. But it was just right. I personally, where I'm at, and not so much professionally. I'm still, you know, Maxx. I just got to do Maxx. Before that, I did Happy. I mean, I'm really getting fun and eclectic and nutty projects. But I think maybe I wanted to be less of a journeyman or a nomad, or you know, because I've been doing that, and it's been great. It's taken me all over the world and all over the U.S. and I really enjoyed it. But then after a while, you're like, oh, maybe let's look for a home base again for a while.
And it was Law and Order. It was going to be that home base again.
I'm looking to settle down, Mark. Okay, that's what it is.
But obviously, you haven't started filming yet. The world is a different place than probably when you were talking about the show. So let's talk about Stabler, though, because this is a guy who's complicated. He's a hero, but at the same time, you know, he was doing stuff that he obviously got in trouble for, but also a different time. Now we're in a world where police brutality is looked at under much more of a microscope. So how does Stabler going to change, and how does he have a reckoning with that past, or is it still his present?
How he has the reckoning, that will be up to the writers and myself to hammer out the details on that. We're all, the writers and I, the showrunner, are all in agreement that just as a human being, Stabler has to have evolved. He has to have changed. Just by virtue of having gotten older, maybe a little wiser, it's just, I don't think it's a very attractive trait to be, set in stone and this is who I am and that's what I am. I never thought of Stabler as that guy anyway. I thought he was a guy well aware of his faults, and I think he was a guy, on the side of right, the side of justice. And, nowadays, okay, that's commendable, but you can't use that as an excuse to go outside the boundaries just because you think that my cause is the just cause and everything else. Because I think we're living in a world where those lines have been not blurred, they've been broken. So, and people are fed up with extracurricular, extrajudicial justice being meted out. So, I think it's a delicate and sensitive arena to be going into. I think it's important. I think, if we do our job right, we'll have a meaningful show as well as an entertaining show. And a show that belongs.
Go ahead.
No, just a show that belongs in this time and space, as complicated as it is right now. And we'll see how we do.
And how important is it for television shows like Law and Order, police shows, cop shows, obviously have always been popular. But in this time period, there's been a lot of talk about how it glamorized cops or it let them get away with things where it wasn't the real story of what was going on in police forces. How important is it especially with Law and Order, to have that realistic speaking to the times?
Well, how do I answer this? I think you have all, to the idea of it glamorizes. I also look at The Wire. I look at The Shield. I look at Homicide, Life on the Street. I never thought, I never saw the Law and Order shows as glamorizing anything but the pursuit of justice. So, whatever it is, it's what I said before. We're going to be there to entertain, and hopefully give this moment in time its due, and do it with a certain amount of sensitivity or finesse, or being able to propose all angles of the fight, all angles of the issue, all parts of it.
Let's talk about your Twitter. First of all,
Jesus.
Listen, you're tweeting. So I'm going to ask you about it. One, you're asked about being called a zaddy.
Yes.
When you see that, do you laugh? What do your kids say? They're like, Dad, people are calling you a zaddy online.
My kids don't tweet. Yeah, no, they refuse to engage, and they're better people for it. What do I it's just so great. It's so funny. That's why I always, those types of things I always like to play with, because, like I usually say something like, heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's the coronation of my zaddiness. It's cute.
What is a zaddy in your mind?
I thought it was Uber Daddy. I thought it was, the Uber DILF. Is that what it is? Right?
Yep, that makes sense.
There you go.
Like
all right, there you go.
But you also get quite political in your Twitter.
Yeah.
You go after that guy. Why is that important for you?
I won't go too deep with this, but I do feel strongly we're on the cusp of I don't know, how do you want to say it so it's not a cliche? I feel as though there are authoritarian actions taking place. Corruptness is being enabled, and ineptitude is being glorified and sanctified. We have I see things crumbling before me that I never thought would happen. So I think we're on the edge of very, very bad things.
Does it scare you?
Not scare, makes me sad. Capitalism will continue, but I think the middle class is all but almost gone, and if they don't use their voice to understand what's happening, but it's like as I see it, because I just it's very sad. Yeah. Corruption. I wish I could be more articulate, but
it's
I
great.
think I get swallowed by the enormity, the emotional enormity of how I think about it. That if we don't wake up and if we don't truly fight the certain powers that be, and I've never been that guy, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Rage Against the Machine really had very good points. I mean, when a certain segment is able to bamboozle a large part of the population and have them voting against their best economic needs and the using fear and divisiveness. I feel like 1950s America. I feel it's the same kind of thing when they didn't want to confront slavery. They just kept kicking the can down the road. The dawn before the dawn of the Civil War. That's how it feels.
I imagine you've met Donald Trump back in New York. I imagine he'd probably be at a premiere or two that you've been at.
Yeah. And he's the same from what I saw. I mean, what I saw was this this lumbering guy. He walks into the room and looks around to see who's watching him. And I just remember thinking, what? And then I was very curious as to, if you're that rich and you're that known, what is this behavior? I was kind of fascinated by it. So I kind of studied him, and I'd see him, he was just like looking around to see who's looking. And I was like, wow, that is like a bundle of insecurity just crashing through a room of, I don't know, people didn't, it was at an NBC party because his show was on the air at the time. I think it was starting or something. Anyway, yeah.
And here we are. Now you could have a whole season of Law and Order just looking at the presidency. You have organized crime. I mean, I feel like you might be involved with that in that investigation.
Yeah, I hope so.
And then let's go back to some more fun topics.
Good.
Every time you post a photo of you and Melissa Holiday, the internet goes nuts.
Yeah.
Why not? Like when you guys take the photo, are you like, okay, let's post it right now? And are you watching the numbers just going nuts?
No. I don't even know what happened. I just know every once in a while, someone on the Twitter will go, "You broke the internet." But I'll say this: that no, I can't say that we're just innocent about it. Mariska always says, "Are you ready to break the internet?" So yeah, I guess it was after like the second time we posted or something,
Right.
these many years ago, and we just did it as a goof, and yeah. So we thought, oh well, you got a good thing. People are interested in it, so we'll post it, make them happy.
Mr. Meloni, thank you so much. This was awesome. Congratulations.
Pleasure's all mine.
Congratulations on Maxx. Like I said, it's just, we had to stop because we were just like, our mind, the funeral scene with the arm, we literally screamed. And he keeps going and he's holding the arm.
Isn't it cringeworthy? I mean, he does cringeworthy so well.
But it's cringeworthy, but so realistic. Like you know those people. You know, you've been around Hollywood for a long enough time. You know there is that guy on many of those versions. So you're sort of like, it's cringeworthy because you could imagine it actually happening. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate this. Stay safe, be well, and hopefully we'll see you in person rather than Zoom the next time.
Yeah, Mark. Pleasure was mine.
Thank you, Ms. Meloni. Take care. Bye-bye.